Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. It is time to get my Eloquencer original video review updated with coverage of a number of new features that have been added since my last updated video, which was for the now old firmware 1.0.4. Since then, we had the firmware version 1.2, 1.3.0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, 0.8. So yes, the current firmware is version 1.3.8. From this video and over the next few videos, I will be exploring all the new features added after version 1.04, all the way to the current version 1.3.8, and of course, I will also be covering the EME MIDI input-output expander. But I will not go over what I have already covered so far, of course. If you do not own the Eloquencer, so you're not familiar with it, or if you need a refresher on how it works, how to access and use most features, pattern, parts, song structure, external control through CV inputs, muting, programming, probability, modifying track lengths, play modes, scales, output voltages, these inputs and outputs appear, everything about sequencing, CVs, gates, it's all thoroughly, or I hope very decently covered in my previous videos, which is the full review initial video and the 1.04 update. Links are in the description down below. From this video onwards, I will not stop to explain how to access this or that feature, how to program steps. That's all covered in the first video. From now onwards, I will simply use what we already know to get to and explore new features. Remember, under each of my previous videos, and the new ones too, of course, you will find a convenient clickable timed index with which you can jump to any specific topic or feature you may be looking for. My very last video on the Eloquencer was a preview of the stepped LFO feature, which allows you to output a digital LFO signal per each track from the CV output of a track. You can have up to 8 independent LFOs, 1 per track. While the CV output is busy outputting your LFO, you can still independently use the gate output for your sequenced patterns of gates. For example, track A gate is my kick pattern, track B gate is my snare pattern, so kick and snare. I could, at the same time, while these patterns, these kick and snare patterns is playing, I can also output an LFO signal from CVA and an LFO signal from CVB. So the CV outputs with LFOs are independent from the gates patterns. And this was an example I posted some time ago. Let's take a quick look. Okay, this is how it works. You select LFO. I'm going to select track E. I'm sending this to the data so we can see the shape of the LFO as it cycles. And so that we can hear these LFOs applied to something, I have a simple patch. Track H is driving the braids, which goes into the Belgrade filter. And this LFO is going to modulate the span parameter of this filter. Okay, so this is the patch without the LFO applied. The LFO is switched off on this other track. Okay, now let's switch the LFO on. Again, it's going to the span parameter of the filter. And we start from this saw. Now the length of the cycle, it's, you can change the time here. It defaults a one pattern. We're going to change this in a second. Let's check out the different LFO shapes first. Ramp. Triangle. Square. Let's make the cycle a little bit shorter. Say 8 steps. Now every 8 steps it goes from high, low, high, low. Finally, random. Let's reduce it a little bit to 2 steps. And now every 2 steps the CV output outputs a random value, which in this case will be between 0 and 9 volts. You can even have it to a minimum half step, so every half step changes value. That's only for the random. The minimum for square, it's 1 step. Triangle. Minimum for triangle, so it's 2 steps. Six steps. Of course, it's the actual speed is depends on the tempo of your sequence, the BPM. If the BPM is faster, you will cycle faster through the pattern, through the steps. Ramp. Minimum is 2. This is over 1 pattern as before. Back to the saw. The saw minimum is also 2 steps. But you can go to a maximum of 32 patterns. So this means you can slowly modulate any parameter in your system over a very long length of 32 patterns. So that will take a long time. So this is good for a kind of forever changing sound over a long period of time. Let's go back to maybe a couple of patterns. See, slowly going up over 2 patterns. and goes down. Now, of course, talking about time and speed, if we go to tempo and change the BPM, and just to show that it's always a proportion to the BPM. Let's go back to 94, and back to LFO. Now, the amplitude. You can set it from 0 to 9 maximum. So you could set it to 5 if you wanted to, 1, 2, 3, well, also in between values, 0.2, 0.3, 1, etc. And let's put this back at 9. The values that come out of this output, they are only between 0 and 9. You don't have negative values. So if you were to offset this, like with a -4, it just means it's stopping at 5. Because anything below 0, it's capped at 0. And anything above 9 will be capped at 9. So if I was to do +4, what you are achieving really, it's limiting this voltage between 4 and 9. Of course, these are digital stepped LFOs, so they are not trying to replace linear, continuous, analog, super smooth LFOs. But it's great to have them. With sequencers where you may not have an LFO feature, you could kind of approximate a similar effect by manually editing voltage output step by step, step per step. But can you imagine how tedious it would be? Every time you change your mind, you want to have that cycle over a smaller number of steps, then you cannot do it quickly, but then you may want to try over 2 patterns, and then you want to try a different shape and do that, changing voltages by hand. It's so tedious that you will probably do it once and never again. So this feature, even if it's a stepped LFO, is a mega time saver. Not only that, but you don't always need a super smooth LFO, because sometimes you just need something that cycles through voltages so that over time, at specific moments in time, you have a different voltage. Like even if it's a ramp, but you only need a voltage here, 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 here. For example, let's say you're playing a synth voice, which is more of like a staccato voice, and you may want a different voltage that modulates this voice every time you play a note and so on. Then you don't need any voltage in between those steps. So a stepped LFO, it's spot on, especially when you can sync it to a specific step length, pattern length, and so on. So for those situations where you really don't need an analog smooth LFO, this kind of stepped LFO, it's exactly what you need. And indeed, the fact that this has 8 LFOs, and you can still use the gates for the same tracks, even if on the CV output you are using LFOs. And they are somewhat editable in terms of shape, amplitude, length per step, whole pattern. That's one of the reasons why I actually have 2 Eloquencers. Note, I don't work for Eloquencer. This is not a promotional video. I'm just saying I have 2 of these because some time ago I wanted more LFOs and more gate sequencing, but I wanted to be able to save those things as well. So I set an LFO to do something, I set it of a specific length and so on. I wanted to be able to save it with my tracks. Because I work on patches on tracks over a number of sessions, because I do other things as well, so I cannot spend all day on making music. It's really convenient to be able to go back to a track that you stopped working on 1 or 2 days before, you load your project up, and all the settings for gates and LFOs are there. But because I'm doing some multi-track stuff with more than 8 tracks, of course, and when you consider the cost of 8 individual LFOs or dual LFOs or quad LFO modules, which you still need 2, and then some more gate sequencing. So I just went and got another one of these, and if you find this sometime, this or any other sequencer that has similar features, doesn't have to be this one, but if you find it maybe second-hand at a good price, sometimes it's better to get a multifunctional unit instead of having tons of modules, which individually, once you put them together in terms of cost, they reach a considerable amount of money. Instead, you have it all in one place, plus, because it's all in one place, and it has a saving functionality, you can save everything you've done, come back the day after, and everything is there. Since we're talking about LFOs and setting parameters, whatever, if you go into options, we have already covered CV assignments and using external CV to modify elements of your sequence live. We already looked at that in my first review video, so go and back and check that one out, please. What was added to it recently, well, a few firmwares ago, is the ability to use external control voltage to do this. Reset the LFO. Now, this is great. So you have your LFO already set up, a specific shape, a specific amplitude, a specific length of the cycle, so many steps, a pattern, more than one pattern. But if at any moment in your track you need to reset the LFO because you want to recall that specific modulation, especially if you're playing live, now you can do that, send a control voltage and reset the LFO. The options screen, one more thing that is relatively new, is you can now change the set of gate lengths, the default set of gate lengths. So that's handy to have. Okay. Okay, people, before this video goes on for way too long, let's take a break, and in the following video we will be talking more about new pattern and clock related features. After that, we will get hands-on with everything EME, Eloquencer MIDI Expander, but I also have a super scoop preview for you. So if you want to see more about this, the Eloquencer portable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth pattern, gate and CV programmer, create your sequences on the go, then transfer them to the Elo on the fly. So don't miss my upcoming videos, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell on my channel. Please leave feedback and comments below the video. If you don't, I'll feel alone in the dark, no one to talk to. Okay. Before you go, please trigger the like button under the video. It will make me happy and it will fill me up with more voltage. More likes, more voltage. It's the voltage required to power more and more Sonic Voltage videos. So trigger the like button under the video, please. Follow me on the usual social channels where I'll post short snippets of bits and bobs. Instagram, Twitter, the usual. Okay, as always, thank you for watching, have fun, and keep Euroracking.